Okay, welcome to the special meeting of the council. It's April 23rd. The time is 6:02. We'll call the meeting to order. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any adjustments, changes? No, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll go to public participation. Anyone online, Marina?
Nobody that has their hands up.
Okay, I must be at the hockey game. Starts the second playoff game. Okay, number 4 item, the bylaws, and the water rates and regulation bylaw number 2, 1971, amendment bylaw 636, 2024. We have a motion that the water rates and regulations bylaw number 2, 1971, amendment bylaw number 636, 2024 be adopted. A motion.
Yeah.
Second?
Yeah.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item number 4A2 is the sewer and user rates bylaw number 3122, 1984, amendment bylaw number 634, 2024. We have a motion that the sewer user rates bylaw number 122, 1984, amendment bylaw number 634, 2024 be adopted. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, item number 4A3, garbage and recycling collection bylaw number 455, 2013, amendment bylaw number 637, 2024. We have a motion that the garbage and recycling collection bylaw number 455, 2013, amendment bylaw number 637, 2024 be adopted. We have a motion.
So moved.
Yes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item number 4, that is 4A4. And this is the 24 to 28 5-year financial plan of bylaw 632, 2024. We have had the first reading on this. We're looking for the second. The motion is that the 2024-2028 5-year financial plan, bylaw number 532, or is that 632? Sorry, very small writing. 632 to 2024 be read for the third time. We have a motion.
Sorry if I could,
Yes.
Marina, can you confirm whether it was first and second at the last council or just first?
It was first and second.
Okay.
Okay, so this will be the third reading. That is a school number.
Oh, I get that every day around this
If
time.
you don't answer it, they keep phoning back. See,
That's
it's a
right.
recording.
A student today.
Yeah, in your high school.
Good thing I didn't have that when I was a kid.
Yes, you can get it in Spanish as well.
Okay.
My friend gets it.
This is the third reading, so the motion is that the 2024, 2028 5-year financial plan bylaw number 632, 2024 be read for the third time. We have a motion.
Moved.
Second. Okay, discussion.
Could I clarify the 2024 figures? Is that based on a 9% or a 6% increase?
Yes.
It's based on a 9%, that is the staff recommendation. So what we were hoping to resolve in this meeting was receiving clear directions from council as a whole as to what the proposed rate would be, so we can finalize our tax bylaw. 9% in my opinion is the lowest rate that's prudent financially and acceptable by the community. It's a starting point. We're gonna need actually a lot more money than this, but it's just building up. I do have one comment in regards to this, is that so there is has been some discussion regarding, okay, well, potentially we should be seeking more grant opportunities to fund our infrastructure. I will remind council that unless we get 100% grant, we're still typically on a 73%, 27% grant structure. So we still actually have to save up some money to fund our own obligations to these infrastructure funds, grants. While it may not seem like a lot in an absolute context, it's adding to our piggy bank. And it's, in my opinion, a start for a good financial plan.
Okay, so we have the motion on the table. If there is discussion or any amendments, now would be the time.
Yeah, I'd like to move an amendment to the bylaw. And that would be to, now I had moved an amendment of 6% in the last meeting, and that was defeated, as I recall. So I'm not clear whether I would be able to move that 6% figure again, or whether I would have to consider another.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell is shaking his head, so you wouldn't be able to move the 6%, you'd have to go.
Okay, so that being the case, I would recommend that I would like to move an amendment that we adjust the 2024 rate to represent a 7% increase, and I'll speak to that.
Well, just a question of process. Is it appropriate to try 7 and then maybe 6.5 and then 5.5 and then, or how many times is that the acceptable procedure, or how many times did you do this? It's a change, 1%.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you through you to Councillor Abbott. Acceptable? Yes. Tedious? Yes. This is always, let me back up by saying this is 1 year. Mr. Chertoff has provided council with proposed numbers for the following years, which are vastly lower than that. However, that said, you're gonna have to revisit those years going forward, and I suspect it's not gonna be as low as Mr. Chertoff has sort of tentatively put it out there for. I think he would readily admit to that. The purpose of the 5-year financial plan is not for purposes of specificity per se, it's sort of ballparking. But back to your question, all I can advise you on is this. This village is a long way off from financial sustainability. I would suggest there have been a number of key projects that have been kicked down the road. These chickens are now coming home to roost. And this is the reality that many communities find themselves in when these very difficult decisions around tax increases come to council. And no one wants to do this, but you can't, no council can hold back the tide for too long. And the tide's coming in on these, as Mr. Chertoff indicated, 9% is not enough. Like, I mean, you heard, many meetings ago, Mr. Chertoff, I don't remember the number that you put out there. It had to be something like a 300% tax increase or something crazy.
That would, yeah, in the original 5-year plan, that would have been required to achieve a 0% reduction in our draw on our reserves. Where we have through discussion with council and the committee as a whole, we prioritize projects and have changed the time horizon on the anticipated start of these projects that are in accordance with our asset management plan. In order to achieve a 0% draw on reserves, it would be 20% year over year to fund those projects without a draw on our reserves. As currently projected, with the current proposed 5-year plan, we will projected have a reserve of $2.6 million in 2028. $1.8 million that is restricted in the land reserve. The Climate Action Committee reserve, or LGCAP. And so basically what that leaves us with is our basic operating capital in 5 years or 1 year's time. So we are getting close to zero in this 5-year plan as far as operating the business of the village.
So, thank you, Joe. So just to sort of close off my thinking on this with regard to Councillor Abbott's question. I go back to what Mr. Cherkoff said. This is about the lowest figure that staff can responsibly stand behind. Something that council did not consider because during the committee of the whole sessions, because we did not have that information, is the QPE consideration, which this number that Mr. Cherkoff has provided accounts for. So if you, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but, and I stand to be sort of directed on this by Mr. Cherkoff, I suspect if you go too much south of 9%, something else is gonna have to come off the table in order to deal with that offset. 9% allows the municipality to be able to maintain, let's call it a status quo relative to the issues that are before council now. So that's all I can say.
Okay, just a procedural, Councillor Broughton puts forward an amendment. If it's not seconded, can he then put another amendment forward? He goes 7% first time, it's not seconded, he goes 8%. Is he allowed to follow right on the heels of that?
In theory,
Okay, so Councillor Broughton, your amendment on the,
My amendment is to 7%.
okay, do we have a second for that?
I'll second that for discussion.
Okay, we'll open up for discussion. Councillor Broughton, you put forward the motion.
Okay,
Speak first.
I'm profoundly supportive of our infrastructure needs. And, but I would like to ensure that we have our costs that we've reviewed, our best use of funds. We're not gonna do it. We're not gonna to meet our infrastructure needs with a tax increase. But there has been, a number of situations where I think we need to focus on our expenditures year over year. And I'm just suggesting that by throwing money at some situations, if we don't have complete sense of what we want, what direction we want to go, we have not done a strategic planning session as yet. And I just think that it's, I'm not prepared to support a 9% increase when there are a number of places in the budget which we have not, which I believe could be, we could generate better value and save 1 or 2 percentage points. And if we can save more than that, then we enhance our infrastructure funding. Currently, if we're talking 9%, that's more than 3 times the cost of living increase. There are families in our community who are facing massive mortgage rate increases. The argument that many of our citizens can defer their taxes is really a problem for some when they're starting to find, but some people are starting to find when they sell their home that they've used up a lot of their equity with tax deferral. So that's not a great idea. Recently Surrey settled at 6%, and that's with all the police issues they have. And in addition, we currently are built into our tax structure is a 10% infrastructure levy. So I just feel that to go with 9% is not necessary, and that we're going to have to find other ways to deal with our infrastructure needs. And I think keeping our eye on the ball is really going to help us to do that.
Okay, we'll go to Councillor Abbott, get your hand up.
Sure. Just to be clear, are we talking just about whether it's 7 or 9? Are we going to come back to the rest of the budget later? Or is this, we may as well discuss our concerns about the budget in general? It's not just the 7 versus 9, right?
Just the amendment.
Talking about the amendment.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
thank you through you. So this is about the 5-year financial plan,
Yes.
not about the tax rate. This conversation would be better for the next item, where you're setting the actual tax rate.
The 5-year
However,
financial plan is approval of the budget. The budget's in the 5-year financial plan.
there is that linkage, absolutely, that's where I was going. So they are separate, but they are linked.
Right, yeah.
So you can pick and choose where you want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
Councillor
what
Abbott.
I tried to clarify earlier, yeah.
Okay, right. The 5-year financial plan currently, in answer to your question earlier, has transfer from reserves of 1.76 million, gas tax transfer 650, and then some back into reserves for infrastructure levy, etc. It pretty much doubles current taxation we have. As near as just in some mental math. The near as Don is to swearing, it's going to double our current rate. So, and then it, as Joe pointed out, it draws down on much lower numbers for the next 5 years. I mean, order of magnitude lower numbers, or bumps up again to 627, and it ends up with us being at 2.6 million in reserves and a 1.8 million, which is restricted. That to me is the 5-year go bankrupt play, pretty obviously. We couldn't possibly live in that world. It'd be way too risky. So we cannot be reducing 9% down to 6 or 7%. It just doesn't make any sense. We need all the money we can get. 9% is reasonable in this current market. It's reasonable and it's lower than what most other communities are doing. So you know, I would like to see it stay exactly where it is. I have some other questions that I sent by email to everyone last week on Friday about suggesting what I would like to see changed on the budget. I'm just not sure whether I should speak to that now or do I get to speak to that in the next session, in which case I will stop talking, but I do want to talk to those points.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell, we spoke earlier about putting a motion forward and then putting an amendment. If you weren't in agreement with the motion, put an amendment forward and then we can speak to that amendment. So if you have some items that you'd like to introduce as an amendment, that might be the best way to do it.
So, thank you. So if I could just remind you that you have a motion on the table. So you have to address this and vote on this one.
Okay.
But I think you're exactly right. I think at this point, you might as well deal with it all, because whatever you establish now, as the percentage going forward, is gonna guide what happens in your tax rate bylaw.
Okay.
So,
So I thought we were good.
yeah, so I would do it amendment by amendment, so if anyone has ideas with regard to what you would like to see changed in this 5-year plan or the budget, you raise that, you propose it as a motion, second, vote on it, you discuss it, etc., vote on it, and if it passes, then it would be the main motion as amended. If it doesn't, then we move to the next person. Do they have anything to propose, etc.? So keep on cutting away at it by.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, Councilor Ryder, your hand up.
No, I didn't, but I can ask a simple question. I don't want to get in the way here. Neville, I think you still had the floor, but Michael, I seconded this for discussion. So you repeated some of the points you did last time. I guess my question to you is, you want to cut the tax rate by 2% now. So what's your specific proposal for how to get us there?
I have a number of them, but I don't know if that's particularly helpful at this point or not, but.
I think it would be helpful. I mean, the devil's in the details here.
Okay. Okay, well,
Sorry if I could.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
This is a message to all of council. If, to Councillor Reuter's point, in a scenario like this, it's good to say you're proposing X be reduced, but you should be putting forward through what mechanism are you proposing to reduce it by? That connects the left hand and the right hand on the question. So whether it be this or any other matter, if you're proposing a change, you have to also identify what correlates with that change.
Okay, just for procedure, we'll go around the room twice for those that put their hand up, and then we'll call the question. So, Councilor Ryder, anything further?
I just had that question at this moment.
Okay, Councilor Conlon.
I have a question, whether are we putting the cart before the horse by discussing this prior to the budget discussion? Through to.
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you to you. Well, this is sort of the crux of it. This is gonna sort of think about it as a kind of a funnel approach. What you establish here will inform the budget. It's not perfect alignment, but there's significant alignment. In other words, if you identify, say, a X%, 8%, 9%, whatever tax increase, you can play with that in the budget. You can realign the deck chairs, so long as you hit that number. So it's good, in my view, to sort of lock all this stuff in now, and then one will flow nicely into the other.
Okay, well, I guess my only comment is that I'm going to trust that staff has made the best recommendation, and I supported it last meeting and I will again.
Okay, any other questions before we call the question?
Well,
Councilor Brown?
I can respond to the question
Okay.
if you wish.
Okay.
Basically what I was going to say is I would trust staff to make the best choices, but the two things that I had brought up in a previous meeting were the fact that there was $180,000 in bylaw enforcement costs. And my concern was that a parking task force had been struck. And one of the things that came up was a concern about enforcement, and there has never been any sort of discussion as to best use of bylaw in terms of parking. Not sure exactly, I just think that we have some further discussion to do around there. I totally support the role that bylaw enforcement is taking in all the different areas that they're working. But when I first was on council, I asked who was supervising the bylaw enforcement officer at the time. And it was very challenging to find out. And ultimately I believe I was told that bylaw enforcement was being supervised by Haley Cook. Now, whether that was accurate or not, but I don't know. And then last summer we had no CAO, and we had a very challenging summer, and there was very confusing supervision in terms of we had our public works superintendent taking over various roles, including bylaw enforcement. And anyway, I just thought that it deserved a look, and I was stunned that it was running at a $15,000 a month or $180,000 a year figure. And the fact that it generates a fair number of fines, there's also a discussion in terms of the viability of collecting those fines and whether that's the approach you want to be taking and so on. So that would be one area I would certainly see looking at. And right now, if we're looking for 2%, we're looking around $35,000. Another area that I'd suggest some review possibly would be looking at legal based on the fact.
Mr. Blackwell?
So, thank you, sorry to interject on this. We can't look, there's no time to look at, that's committee of the whole, because when you look at this stuff, you need to make a decision. So I propose we reduce X budget by $30,000. That's what this meeting's about. There's no time to investigate anymore. That should be sailed.
All right, Councilor Abbott, anything further?
I've got other stuff that I would like to propose. Just comment on Michael's thing about the bylaw. It's no different to the comment I've made several times before. The bylaw does generate funds if you looked at it as a parking bylaw thing, but bylaw is a lot more than just parking. I think this council agreed we needed to move to a full-time bylaw. There's a direction given to staff, and this is the budget that's required for that, as well as maintaining the level of service that we've become accustomed to. I think it's not so much being accustomed to that we desperately need, including the shortages that we're going through at the moment. I think we should leave that where it is. So let's comment on the bylaw part, and I'll leave my other suggestions.
Okay, Councilor Ryder?
Yeah, on the bylaw, I mean, I think about what is our responsibility here. And let's just cut to the chase and keep it simple. We need to ensure that we are serving a functioning community. And that means water, roads, drainage, transportation, and order. And that means bylaws and bylaw enforcement. Parking, a massive influx of visitors that we're going to get. water usage and monitoring of that as we move into this perilous summer. Illegal Airbnbs that affect people's lives. The list goes on and on. So I think that centering our attention on bylaw enforcement is the wrong place. We've already heard multiple times from residents whose lives are impacted by the lack of bylaw enforcement. And I think we're gonna see more and more of that. So I don't think that's the right place to focus. And I'll reserve my comments for places to focus, perhaps for another point in the conversation.
Councillor Conlon?
Hi. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call the question. This is, the motion was as amended for
I was
7%.
just clar-
7%.
Clarify,
We've gone around the room twice, so just a quick point.
very quick point. Okay, I'm very sensitive to the outcome that we're looking to generate with bylaw enforcement. And so, but I'm not convinced that throwing the appearance of throwing money at it is what will cause that to
I
happen.
think we'll have a chance to address bylaw again, perhaps, but Mr.
Okay.
Blackwell.
Anyway, I'm very supportive. I don't want to be misunderstood in terms of
Mr.
that.
Blackwell.
Thank you. So I'd ask council not just to vote on 7%, because if you agreed on 7%, we would not know where to take it from. So if you're gonna say 7%, you have to specify what amount you wanna remove from the budget in order to achieve 7%.
So, we'll call the question. All in favor of 7%? Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion defeated. Okay, the motion on the table is 9%. Do we have any discussion on the 9% or amendments?
I would,
Councillor
I
Abbott?
would like to speak in favour of the 9%,
Okay,
or not so much about the percentage, but I'd like to speak to other amendments. So we just put these forward one at a time and see where they stick?
why don't we go, we'll go Councillor Abbott first, Councillor Reuter next, Councillor Cunliffe, Councillor Broughton, we'll go around the room.
Okay,
Okay, Councillor Abbott?
and to be clear, I'm doing them one at a time.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, thank you. I was gonna suggest that vote on, if there's a proposed amendment to the main motion, that council deal with those amendments, proposed amendments, one at a time. Vote on it, move to it.
Okay, do you have an amendment?
I do, I have a few, which you've all seen, I sent them to all of you on Friday. So
Can you read them out?
I'll go, now I'm gonna do one at a time, I'm told, so I'm gonna
Okay.
go down my list one at a time. In no particular order other than how I sent them to you. My first one is the jetty being removed from the grant funded portion of the budget to be put into general, which effectively takes the guesstimate, which is currently $190,000, less last year's unspent to 170. If you look at that at a 73 by 27% grant situation, we have an extra $140,000 in the budget. So my motion is to put that back into the beach park until such time as someone can guarantee that it's grant funded somewhere else. That's my
Okay,
motion.
all right, do we have a second?
Sorry, and I just kind of just finish on the one thing I want to say, by putting it back into the budget, I do understand we're gonna have to find a simpler, cleaner washroom, maybe less playscapes. It's not gonna be, a fun conversation, but I think it's a necessary conversation. That project cannot go over the $1 million that it's got grant funded, in my opinion.
Okay, Mr.
Just a
Blackwell,
procedural thing, I would ask for simplicity, make a motion, get it seconded, then you
Then we'll
can,
speak to it.
then you discuss it.
Okay, I would like to put a motion, and I won't re-speak, but I'll put a motion forward that we put the beach park jetty, or the jetty funding out of the general 100% council spend and back into the grant funded portion.
I'll second that.
all right, discussion.
I've had my speech.
Okay, Councillor Reuter?
Yeah, I'll speak when I'm ready to.
Okay, please put your hand up when you're ready. Councillor Conlon?
I wouldn't support that. The beach park grant is for the beach park. The jetty probably should never have been included in the first place. If we're gonna look at price per use, the washrooms and the playground is going to get us our most bang for our buck. So I would not support that.
Okay, Councillor Broughton?
I would not support that motion. The there's been a brilliant bit of work done by the Beach Park Committee. It was very nearly at the finish line and you know, I think some adjustment needed to be done involving the committee, but that ship has sailed. Council has chosen to rebid the process, rebid the project. So clearly, based on the fact that the provincial government suggested that the jetty be removed, and the fact that we do have alternate funding that is being pursued, I would suggest that we, that I would oppose this motion.
Okay, Councilor Ryder?
Yeah, no surprise that I am for that, removing it, to move forward at 100% taxpayer funding with some vague costs, with some possible funding perhaps coming down the road from elsewhere. Sounds like a pipe dream to me. I think that we, as a part of moving that beach park project forward, have to look hard at what we can achieve and what's important. And funding the jetty at 73% grant funding is a no-brainer to me. I don't want to see us saddling taxpayers with 100% there. The numbers just don't make sense. That project has to be brought under control, and putting the jetty back in makes complete and abundant sense to me. So I'm in favor of that, obviously.
Okay, I'll just add that I think the beach park is a jewel and one of our jewels in the community. That the school, two just amazing highlights in this community, and the beach park committee, along with comments from the government, had removed the jetty because it was an uncertainty. And so I think that they poured over that beach park for well in excess of a year, many consultations with various groups. So I think that to have something desirable as a structure on that site, and to perhaps have the jetty fall within the TransLink connector, and we've reached out and there was favorable response, and Mr. Blackwell, maybe you can update us on that.
Thank you. Yes, so through you to council, I was on a Zoom call with two representatives of TransLink with regard to this money and the ability to adjust the scope. We discussed sort of connectivity, a mobility / connectivity spine through the community, sort of from the store down to the beach park, connecting the bus stops and so on and so forth. They seem to be receptive to utilization of the money for the purposes of a pathway and stair replacement in the park and the continuation of the jetty. I said I would send them a mock-up of the areas that we were discussing, just to summarize it. So it's possible that I misunderstood or they misunderstood, but I'm going to send that off to them for confirmation. But at this point, it looks very much like that they are willing to adjust the scope to account for
Okay.
utilization.
So just to reiterate, the connector project, the task force had recommended that the jetty be number 1 on the list. TransLink had relayed to me through our various meetings that they were favorable on pathways. And the Beach Park Committee has worked in well in excess of a year. And the highlights on that beach, from what I understand, are the building and the playscape for the children. So I would not want to see those pared back to prefabbed concrete slabs as a washroom. But you know, it's what the community wants. But I had understood that the community had been listened to and there had been consultation. But so my feeling is that I think the jetty stays out, and ideally it falls within the connector project, and that's a 75-25% split. We'll go around the room again. Councillor Abbott.
Okay, conversation has gone into something completely different. We're not talking about the fact that all of us want to see an upgraded beach park project and a wonderful beach park project and the best we can get. We all 100% agree on that. But we cannot pass a budget on what may have, or we have to pass a budget on what we know. What we know is that it is still part of the beach park project because it has not been removed. What we don't know is whether Translink will give us something. So if it stays in the beach park project and then later it gets Translink step up and say we can do it, good problem to have. No budget increase required. You can move it from one bucket to the next. If you leave it where it is now and that doesn't happen, you're voting for having taxpayers fund it 100%. I'm not in support of that. And this is not about the worthiness or the worth of the beach park or facilities we want down there. It's about where this should be budgeted and back the place where it was.
Okay, Councillor Collins.
My comment would be that it stays out of the beach park budget, and the worst case scenario, whatever time frame it takes to replace the jetty, we're looking at spending some money on replacing sand annually or every couple of years. It's not imperative to the use of the beach park, and the current state of the beach park playscape and washrooms is frankly an embarrassment for a community like ours, so.
Okay, Councillor Reiner.
Yeah, I think that we had reported out that we are going to consult the community, so I think that will still occur. And I think that we should keep our ears open as to what the community's priorities are. Whether that involves pouring more money into a playscape and a bathroom, or getting those scaled down and putting the jetty in, and not funding that at 100% taxpayer dollars and burdening taxpayers with that. I think that's something we should remain open to and listening to, because that process, I think, will still take place. So we shouldn't be making that decision based on a possibility that this might get funded in some other way. We have a road to funding this right now before us.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
The Beach Park Committee has worked very, very carefully to create a beach park plan that the village, I believe, will be very proud of. I think the village beach park is used for all our major events. It comes up multiple times that it is one of the reasons why people came to know Lions Bay, reason why they bought in Lions Bay. I did a dedication to our 102-year-old resident, and one of the points that she raised with each person that she met was, you have to check out our beach park. It is our jewel, and it comes up repeatedly. And I think it's imperative that we create something that we will be proud of. We've had some amazing individuals come together and put together a plan for us. And to now go back to the drawing board, and this is version 4, I believe. We had a plan that was drafted to get the funding in the first place. We had a plan that was drafted that was a prefab roadside sort of washroom plan, and a playscape with no design. We have an outstanding plan in place now, and which we need to try to implement to whatever extent we can. But to go to a 4th edition is just, to me, makes no sense. So definitely the jetty should be kept out of this.
Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor of putting the jetty back into the beach project, raise your hand, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, motion defeated. Okay, motion on the table is 9% increase. Any amendments on the floor? Okay, for a call, okay. Councillor Abbott,
As I said, I've got a bit of a list, so
okay,
anyone else has got anything I could
please go forward.
keep going. Maybe I won't go through the list in particular order.
Put a motion on the floor and then we'll discuss it. If that, and I think Mr. Black will that indicated to put a motion on the floor and we can have a discussion. That will keep it simple. Thank you.
Okay, so, my motion is that we revisit the administration part of the budget. And we update it to reflect actuals as we understand them now, not as we understood them in February. And I'll list what they are. We know we have a QP revision coming. We have a better understanding, if not a complete agreement on what that is. Of course, you won't talk to the numbers. We have a budget that says we are not changing the number of admin assistants from one full-time and one part-time. Yet we always have two people in the chair when it's fully funded. We have gone out now and advertised for an admin person full-time, and we have someone on mat leave coming back at some point this year. I see that as best possibly as 3 admin people at some point, but at very worst, we agreed to go up to 2. By the way, except that it's not 3, by the way you're shaking your head, well, I don't understand it. And I think that is a bigger ask than what we currently have, which is a 21% increase in that section. So it's a review of that. So my position is a review of the admin salaries, including QP or QP across the board, as well as the admin assistants.
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. That is a terrible, terrible motion. So, because we can't, there's no
Would the
time.
meeting be called after that and the staff would be back to work?
I think it's the world's longest motion I've ever heard. Where I'm going with this is, what would be better is if you said, reduce the X budget by this much.
Okay,
or-
increase the admin salary on my calculation by $100,000.
So you're moving that happen?
I'm moving it, we increase it to reflect what we know is true or real. And it's an increase, I think, of around $100,000. I don't have the means to do the calculation and tell you what the dollars are. I'm telling you that is understated by around $100,000, I believe, and I think we should go back and correct it. I'm not the accountant. I'm just telling you what's wrong with it.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell, if we move that motion and we have a discussion and that carries, will that require staff to go back, do some work? And I guess what I'm asking is, are we near the end of the meeting for this evening?
What I would suggest is, do you have a seconder to actually bring it to the table? If you wanted to come to the table, no one has to second it. No one's obliged to second anything, as you
I
know.
think I
but-
saw a hand, I'll take it.
But if it is, then you have the discussion, then maybe I can ask Mr. Chirkov
Okay.
to
Was that
share his.
second?
I'll second
Oh.
it. More information is key.
Sure. So the 5-year plan incorporates the additional administrative person at the adjusted wage rate increases. It also incorporates our public works unionized employees at their adjusted wage rate increases based on what projected to be contract to be. So I would have to go back. I just don't have it right in front of me to make sure that the current year includes 1 FTE and 1/2 FTE. But from my recollection, it does include 2 administrative positions. I would need to go back and double check.
Okay,
Just,
that's all right.
just to be clear, you're talking about version 15 of your report. Well, then it does not include that.
I will have to go back and pull out for you.
Can I make an observation?
Yeah, Councilor Rowe.
It seems to me that this method of moving this forward is not overly helpful, to lock us into, here's a motion. I mean, this should be a discussion. I feel at this point that this is a continuance of a shoehorning in this process that we've experienced before, which is save your questions, don't get into the weeds, don't get lost in the weeds. But the discussion needs to happen in an open way. I mean, I heard you, Michael, make a comment at a recent finance committee meeting on April 12th that you wish that there'd been more discussion during this process on ways to reduce costs. If we're gonna go, just making one motion after the other and, not engaging in a free-flowing discussion, I don't think that we're gonna get very far tonight. So I would urge us to have the discussion and then maybe let, motions grow out of that.
Yeah, Mr. Cherkoff?
If I may, with regards to procedural motions and conduct and discussions, staff has reached out repeatedly to the committee of the whole and council members with respect to soliciting feedback regarding everything. We've had a number of meetings since going back to November. And I find it surprising that at this point, without having any sort of direct communication from council, that these questions are coming up. We've had no feedback, aside from some questions from Council Brighton regarding possibly cutting back certain budget accounts and with regards to tax rate, rebutting a 9% recommendation from staff. So I think it is, in my opinion, very surprising that where we're so close to the finish line, that these questions haven't been asked before, and have certainly not been directed to myself.
When's the last time that you reached out to council?
Friday.
By
Yeah.
email?
Yeah.
And who responded?
Nobody.
So,
Okay,
Sorry,
Councilor Ryder,
So
or
can I
Councilor
just comment on that? I sent this email with all of this on Friday. I sent it to the CIO. I asked him to decide what he wanted to do with it. I was told to follow the one employee rule. That's what I did. So to say that I didn't say it at the time, and this particular point we're talking about, I've raised before, Joe. I have raised before in meetings with you about the part-time employee, and it still says it's based on one full-time and one part-time. I take it for what it says.
Councilor Ryder?
yeah, further to your point, Joe, I think that this discussion shouldn't occur offline, where we're emailing you stuff. It should occur at the table and in committee of the whole meetings. And a lot of these things have been raised before. I've got a list of other things I can bring up again, but it seems to me that is the way to do it.
Mr. Blackwell?
So this is exactly what I was hoping to avoid with council, which is why we have spent endless amounts of hours trying to get this stuff through you guys. We've had, I've lost track of how many committee of the whole meetings specifically to have these conversations. The goal for these council meetings is to rubber stamp all the work that you guys should have done. There should be no questions now. At this point, at the last council meeting on Tuesday, should be 0 questions. All of those questions should have been asked and answered since November. So through November, December, January, February, March, those months were the time for this discussion. So this is really problematic in the process because we have no runway left. You're already on borrowed time. You already overshot the standard council agenda window, which is why we're having a special meeting. So looking forward to next year's budget, which is going to start soon. I have that good news to share with you. I would strongly, in the strongest terms, encourage council to come to the committee of the whole meetings. We're going to start, I would say, I'm going to spitball in September, in the hopes that we can get a budget passed by the end of the year. That's sort of the gold standard. I think it's very doable. It's a very small budget for this community, relatively speaking. You think of the size of Surrey's budget, they just adopted theirs. But that's not great. I absolutely think December is an easy target to hit, but I think it's important to reflect on how this is going now and come to these committee of the wholes that are going to be coming. Though I would anticipate another half dozen community of the whole meetings with all of these questions in hand, so you can debate them. I think the conversation about that I've heard tonight about openness and transparency, absolutely necessary. And it's the committee of the whole sessions where you roll up your sleeves and you have those sort of freewheeling, relatively speaking, conversations about trade-offs and so on and so forth. For the formal committee council meetings, this should be done and dusted.
May I ask a question?
Yes, Councilor Cunliffe?
and I guess to Joe, if we vote on the 5-year plan in favor, it is open to amendments over the next 5 years. So some of these conversations could literally wait.
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Cunliffe. You are gonna be back at the trough,
In
so to speak.
6
You know,
months
yeah.
or less.
Yeah, so although it's a 5-year plan, you're only really effectively dealing with 1 year at a time.
Yeah,
The remaining years are sort of high level targeting around major spends that are coming down the pike, you know, replacement of a water tank, et cetera. You know is coming, you can pop those things into the 5-year plan. But as each year presents itself, council rolls up their sleeves and you're back at it again.
that is my understanding, thank you.
Okay, we have Councillor Abbott's motion on the table, amendment, all in favor?
What's the actual motion?
Councillor Abbott, you read it?
The motion is that we go back and revisit the administration salaries and correct the budget to reflect the current QP, as well as the true staffing for the admin assistants, which is not what's reflected currently.
So I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, motion defeated. Okay, we'll go to the original motion. Any other amendments, or we call the question on the original motion to approve the 5-year budget
Does anyone else have
financial
anything?
plan?
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to see changed? Or should I assume it's just me?
Put forward a amendment if you'd like.
Okay, I'll put forward an amendment. Here's one that I think I might get some agreement on. We're currently planning to spend $80,000 on legal fees. In previous years, it's never been more than 40 in my experience.
Mr. Blackwell,
No?
Motion. That the legal budget be reduced.
So that the legal budget be reduced from $80,000 to $40,000. Thank you. I'll speak to it afterwards. Okay.
Second.
okay, Mr. Blackwell, any comments?
Sure, I think we should be targeting about 20,000 a year, ideally. There's a lot at stake right now, a lot of balls in the air. It may be tricky to do. But, you know, I don't think there's anything, it's hard to predict the future. I think, I would like to believe that that should be ample. And if it isn't, maybe there's, you know, I'm sure Mr. Cherkoff can figure out how to get us back on track if we are looking at something unforeseen that exceeds that amount. But I certainly, as you're seeing, you know, can't advocate spending more and more and more on legal fees. It's the opposite. I think we need to get away from spending on the legal fees as much as possible.
Okay, any other councillors like to comment?
Can I speak to my motion?
Councillor, yeah, Councillor Abbott.
No, they were told just to put the motion forward. I think $80,000 is an exorbitant amount to spend on legal fees. I know last year was different, and I would hope everyone can commit to doing better going forward. I think leaving a budget of $80,000 for legal fees is just going to be a continuation of this continuance of this bad habit of calling lawyers every time we need a decision for something. And more recently, it's even committees that have been making this happen. This needs to end, and I think we need to go back to 20 would be great, but at least let's get down to 40 for this year as a total. And if we do get sued by someone in a special circumstance, you just come back to council and get additional budget. This is meant to set the base of what we expect to happen, not the unexpected.
Okay, any other councillors like to comment? No, we'll call the question, all in favor, vote, was that a comment, Councillor Bowden?
Yeah, I pointed out the legal budget in my discussions as well, when I originally brought up a concern about bylaw enforcement and so on. And it was just a couple, you know, 2 items that stood out for me. I was particularly concerned that, you know, we had some really extraordinary legal fees in the last couple of years. So I'm not sure 40,000 is the right number in terms of where we are, but I certainly support the concept of cutting back on the legal fees.
Okay,
Can I just
Councillor
clarify,
Kelly?
the motion would be for the 9% increase for the 5-year plan with the paring down of the legal fees from 80 to 40.
Mr. Blackwell.
So I would ask Joe to jump in on this, but it would either, you could either keep the budget at 9% and then you would have more money then to apply to reserves, or you can reduce, which I would not advocate.
Let me qualify that. I do not support reducing the budget. I'm looking to
Like
reduce it,
the
therefore there'll be
increase.
Pushing, yeah, less
than
expenditures.
1.765 thousand going into.
So no amendment to the 9%?
No.
No, okay. Yeah.
To your question, so there are a couple ways we can go about this. 2023 had extraordinary legal fees, well above what is normally being incurred over the past 5 years. Typically, the village's legal expenses primarily relate to Lisstone and there's title and property and that related. And it generally averages for them about $26,000. That's in the notes to the budget package that has been presented to council. I would suggest that 40,000 would be a pretty safe, if not a little bit generous baseline for legal fees going forward. And I would also suggest that we haven't closed off our 2023 year end yet, that part of those extraordinary legal fees in that year be applied against a $100,000 provision that we have reserved for legal fees. That being said, we need to build that reserve back up. So take money out of one kitty and then gotta put money back into that kitty.
Okay, we'll call a motion, call the question on
Just
the
a quick
reduction.
procedural question.
Yeah,
So we're voting strictly on a reduction in legal, not the 9% and the reduction, just the reduction.
okay, we'll call the question, all in favor?
Before you could, I wonder if there was any specific direction, either from you to Mr. Chirkoff or Mr. Chirkoff, if you had any recommendations, where that $40,000 offset would be posted, where you'd move it to,
Back to
which reserve account?
We do have reserve.
Back to reserves.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, any other amendments before we call the question on 9%? Going
So
once.
one other change.
Okay,
This goes somewhat similar to the other one.
put it forward as a motion.
Yeah, I'm just going to somewhat similar to the other one earlier. I'm not suggesting a change in the 9%. This is more a correction of the budget. I would ask that the audit budget for 2024 be increased by $55,000 to reflect what we believe is closer to reality.
I'll second that.
Okay, second, discussion, questions?
I'll speak to the motion.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Without revealing that which I can't, I think it's general knowledge that we've had a significant increase in our audit fees. Mr. Chirkov told us at one stage it was 126,000. I think some of us know even that number is not accurate. I think council needs to commit to never doing this again, never getting out of step with our auditors, but right now we should reflect the actual costs of what the audit's going to be, which is, in my opinion, probably around $180,000 at least, hence the $55,000 add.
Okay, any other comments? Yeah, Mr. Chirkov?
Council Abbott, so, one suggestion I could make is that, these fees primarily related to 2023, we accrued an amount that we recently expected to incur in 2022 and, for accruals. These are costs above and beyond that extended to 2024, and we finally have some, clarity on what the final bill will be. I would suggest that we accrue it in 2023 and draw on our reserves and budget for 2024 and what a normal bill should be. That is one way of doing it. Alternatively, we just increase the budget in 2024. But that's one suggestion that I have.
So we want to understand that. I didn't know we can do that. We can go back to the 2023 budget and accrue.
No, so we have a budget, but we haven't closed off the 2023 year end yet. Similar to legal accruals that we have, where we accrue up to December 31st, 2023. And we would accrue our our legal fees, our audit fees up to December 1st, 2023 in last year. So we would have a variance from our 2023 proposed budget versus actuals. We clean it up in that year. And then 2024 would reflect what we expect an actual or reasonable audit fee would be.
Okay, is that what you'd intended to do by the number you had in the budget at the moment or not?
That was what I intended to do, yes.
Okay, it wasn't explained, to be honest, not even in the notes.
Joe,
Okay,
sorry, can
Councilor
you repeat that? I'm just
So-
not understanding.
It's same principle as us looking at $40,000 in legal as the benchmark. We're looking at the budgeted audit fee as the benchmark and what we're trying to attain, not what we think may happen.
Which is $55,000 too, in case anyone can't remember.
So if we wanted to go back to say 40, what was expected in prior years, we could look at that too, but realistically, we should probably increase slightly. Okay, I understand.
Okay, any other comments?
Yeah, I guess it just seems a little bit odd. I thought the money we're about to spend this year should be in the budget, but. Okay, so we're all acknowledging that there is going to be a significant overrun of somewhere around $180,000, but it's going to be accrued last year, if accrued the right word.
Yeah.
So, Councilor Abbott, your proposal, completely fair. So we're trying to account for the cost overrun. However, your proposal, in my opinion, is on cash basis, because we're paying it in this year, 2024. However, it belongs to a previous year. For the most part, we've had a pretty good understanding of what that cost would have been in 2023. Slightly under by the end of that year, but we're at a certain date, we haven't closed off 2023 yet. So we will accrue it in 2023. We'll have an overrun in 2023 versus the budget. And that will be a draw from general reserves. And 2024 would be only budgeted for the amount we expect our audit to actually cost.
Mr. Blackwell?
If Councillor Abbott is satisfied with that, he may wish to withdraw that proposed amendment.
Well, I guess it's become an action function, I guess. Yeah, I'll withdraw it.
Okay, any other amendments on the table before we call the question on 9%? Mr. Blackwell?
It's actually for your 5-year plan, including.
For the 5-year plan. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? 5-year plan at, the motion is that the 2024, 2028 5-year financial plan bylaw number 632, 2024 be read for the 3rd time. Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. Mr. Blackwell, any comments?
You don't get to do that. Sorry. you need a 5-year plan, so if you don't want this, you gotta propose.
No,
If whoever voted against it, you gotta propose something else. You don't get to leave today without adopting a third reading for this 5-year financial plan.
Okay, those opposed, please put forward another motion.
let me go first. I'm sorry, I just struggle with this beach park decision that I would like someone else who voted against that to bring it back. I just think it's so wrong, but I can't because it's my motion that was defeated. So I'll just make that statement.
Okay, we're gonna.
Sorry, let me just clarify the beach park. I'm making a mistake. We're not talking about the beach park. We're talking about whether the jetty gets done on tax dollars or gets in.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess just till Councillor Cunliffe comes back, because this is important. So let's take a 5-minute recess, use the washrooms if you'd like, and we'll come back. Thank you.
Well, it was an incorrect.
Okay, welcome back.
Okay, we'll go through the steps.
All right, welcome back to the April 23rd meeting. It is 7:15. And we'll call the meeting to order. Okay, Councillor Broughton.
As a person who is in the winning side of the last motion, I'd like to move that we rescind the previous motion because I believe it was incorrect.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yes, and to be clear, we made a procedural misstep because we didn't,
Incorrectly called.
it was incorrectly moved without the amendment to reduce the legal fees. So I would second that we rescind that motion as we read it.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed, carried. Okay,
I would
we're
like,
back to the original motion.
I'd like to put a
Councillor
motion,
Abbott.
I would put a motion that we now re-vote on my, on that revised amended motion that got indefeated because it's called wrong.
Would you like me to read it out?
Yes.
Yes,
So it would be that the 2024 to 28 5-year financial plan bylaw number 632 as amended, 2024, as amended, be read a third time.
okay,
I'll second that.
okay, all in favor?
Just a moment. Could we
Okay,
speak to that
discussion,
motion?
yes, Councillor Broughton.
Okay, I'm unclear as to why my colleagues are opposed to this particular motion. So could you clarify why you would vote against this motion? It's 9%, which, and it also has the amended.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
portion.
I think I just stated it earlier, whether it was after Jamie left the room, so maybe it wasn't when everyone was here. We now seem to be at the point where someone has to put forward a motion that will be approved. And I don't know what that's going to look like, moving percentage points on increases on tax increase maybe. For me, not having the jetty in a grant funded budget is something that I will not approve. I'm hard on that. And so if no one else can get someone else to vote with them, I would hope that one of my fellow councillors who voted in the prevailing vote on that, would put it forward for me. That's my ask.
Okay,
I'll comment similarly.
Councillor Ryder.
Yep, that point that the jetty is not within the original grant funded project is one of my primary objections, as well. And as well as, some of the other lack of clarity as to funding, admin costs, et cetera. So back to you, same question to you, why did you vote against it?
Okay, Councillor Broughton.
Because it was set at 9%.
Mr. Blackwell.
So here's what I would tell you after doing this for 30 years. You guys are gonna have to find compromise. You're gonna have to agree to things that you don't agree with in order to get this thing across the finish line. You don't get to stand on any soapbox on your 5-year financial plan. You just don't, because you could, in theory, think about 5 members of council saying, don't draw the line in the sand. I don't want red, I don't want yellow, I don't want blue, et cetera, et cetera. We'd never get one passed. So you have to find a way past this.
Okay, I would just, Councillor Abbott, the jetty, whether it goes in the beach park, plan or in the connector. There's a very good possibility on the connector. I had talked with TransLink officials, said it's a pathway. Mr. Blackwell has recently talked with TransLink, and there was a very, very favorable conversation, as I understand, Mr. Blackwell.
It's, through you, yes, it would seem that they are prepared to rescope it to include that.
Okay, so I think it's going to get taken care of in one of the grants. It'll be 75-25. I think there's a high possibility, Councillor Conlon.
My comment about the jetty is that it has never been a discussion at this council table prior to it becoming the part of the beach park scope in its infancy. And it is now potentially 20% of the budget of the beach park. It was on nobody's radar then. I do not understand why it is now this elephant in the room that is the line in the sand. If it gets kicked down the can for 8 or 9 more years, it is going to affect nothing other than several more truckloads of sand, of which we have been doing historically for many, many years. So it does not seem in my mind the hill to die on.
Okay. Councillor Abbott.
Can I just comment on that, to Jamie, but the point is, that's not what you're voting on here. What it says at the moment in this budget is that you are going to take $200,000 of taxpayers' money and do it this year at 100%. That's what it says. Whether there's a better plan or not, a possibility or a high probability or a low probability, that's not what's on the table.
May I comment on
Yeah,
that?
Councillor Conlon.
We see many things that are in the budget that do not get fulfilled within the year. So if it would be palatable to remove the jetty entirely from 2024, and on the hope that TransLink does come through, we can revisit the budget and could we not add it in after the fact, amend the budget to add it? And if it is going to be a bone of contention, let's remove the jetty entirely, because at the rate we're going as a council, we aren't looking to actually accomplish anything this year. And the jetty would be very, very low on a priority for, I think, anybody. If you ask those that use the beach park, all the residents, they want to see washrooms that are not a biohazard. They want to see safe playground equipment for their kids. They would not be, I may be speaking out of turn, but I think if we ask, I do not feel that the jetty would be a priority for residents at this time.
Okay, Councillor Broughton.
The jetty is a requirement for this community in terms of looking environmentally over the next number of years. The beach park will be at risk if the jetty is not addressed. It's a very serious matter. It must occur. To have it being sort of a football on this table is really not acceptable. But I'm very concerned that we're arguing about it must be funded. If it were funded, and I don't believe it will be, at 100% taxpayer dollars, it would pay for itself over the next number of years, because we will not have the damage to the beach, which will occur. We have specialists in our community on resiliency, environmental resiliency, who are saying we must address this issue. So I am 100% in support of the jetty going ahead as rapidly as it possibly can, funding it, but and dealing with this.
Okay,
The fact that
sorry, Mr. Blackwell had his hand up. I'll go to Mr. Blackwell.
okay, I'd like to speak.
So maybe this will help to put a finer point on this. This is how this council, any council, will get past these things. So following the notion that council follows the will of every member of council follows the will of council. That principle whatever the vote is, everybody behind council, on council gets behind that vote. So with that in mind, with these issues that council are wrestling, and rightly wrestling, once voted, I would suggest you each have to get behind that vote, whether you were in favor or not. If you were on the losing side of that vote, you have to get behind council on it. And if you do it democratically, that way you'll get through this and adopt the budget. But if you refuse to get behind council, which is not really appropriate, you could in theory be logjammed forever. So let the prevailing vote guide you. You may not agree with it, but whether it be this or any other council decision, all of council gets behind the decision of council.
Okay. Councilor Brown.
I've heard the will of council to go with a 9% increase. I've spoken as to why I do not support that. However, I support the budget moving forward. I support our community moving forward. I do not support holding things up. But I do want my point made. I believe I've been heard, and I will support the budget at this point.
All right, I'll just say my understanding is that jetty is very, very important to the beach. The beach could be destroyed without that jetty there protecting it, and the jetty will pay for itself over a number of years. I know the study was done by Mr. Burke, and it can be a pathway. So whether it's a 200,000 hard figure or it's 75-25, I believe it'll be the 75-25. So, but I don't think that should, and my feeling is it shouldn't hold this budget up. So I'd be in favor of the 9%. Councilor Ryder?
Yeah, I don't think there's any disagreement here that the jetty is important. The question is how to fund it. That's the disagreement here. Just to be clear, and in terms of logistics, waiting to do that at another time and then barge in equipment. I mean, you do that kind of hard work at the beginning of a project. And that makes sense to do that as part of the beach park and the funded project. That's the disagreement. We don't disagree on the fact that the jetty should be done, but just as to whether it's going to be funded as part of the grant at 73% or at 100% taxpayer dollars, or based on some hope that there will be other funding in the future. That's the disagreement. So we have a motion on the table.
Okay, motion
which
on the
is
table is to remove the jetty from the budget.
No,
No.
there's no motion about the jetty.
The motion on the table
That
is
was the
the
reason.
5-year plan as read and as amended. And the amendment spoke specifically to reducing the legal costs from 80 to 40. That's what's on the table right now. And it's been seconded.
And the jetty is not.
That was just a
That's a
discussion
discussion.
point,
It's a discussion,
and I
yeah.
was
I
putting
asked-
an olive
I asked my
branch out
colleagues-
that if it was something to visit in 2025 as opposed to 2024, because we're almost 5 months into
Yeah,
2024
okay.
right now, so.
All right, we'll call the question then with the amendment. All those in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, we'll move to item number 4. 4A5, tax rates bylaw 635/2024. Recommendation, the motion is that the tax rates bylaw number 635, 2024 be read the second and third time. Do we have a motion?
Just wondering if you might want to have Mr. Cherkoff introduce it a little bit.
Yes, Mr. Cherkoff, give us some background.
To down page. So the. Just the last one. So the proposal, as recommended by staff, and had a significant discussion around the table regarding the proposed property tax increase for 2024 in particular is 9%. As I've mentioned earlier, is a starting point, and moving in the right direction for financial sustainability for the village. I believe that, in my opinion, It's a prudent financial plan, and while we will revisit each year in the budgetary process, by 2025, 2026, 2027, this percentage tax rate increases will be. I believe that our current plan is the minimum amount to sustain our reserves.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the motion is that the tax rate bylaw number 635, 2024 be read a second and third time. Do we have a motion? Second? Okay, I'll second that. Discussion? Any discussion
Okay,
before I call the question?
I believe I've spoken to my belief of the rate. The amendment has been defeated. So I accept the will of council.
Okay,
I-
Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, I voted against the previous, on the 5-year plan in the budget, and I still stand by that. But I'm not opposed to 9%. So I'll be voting in favour, but I make sure that it's not construed that I believe that we have a sound 5-year plan and budget behind it.
Okay, Councillor Ryder?
Yeah, I won't belabor my points about my reservations about the budget. But again, there are a number of aspects to this, the process that have troubled me. And again, it's not about the 9%, it's about all the chickens that are coming home to roost and that are sitting in there that shouldn't be. I won't belabor the points, but it troubles me.
Councillor Conlon, any comments before we call the question? Okay, all those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, we'll move to item number 5, public questions in the gallery. I'd like to go to the gallery first. Okay, anyone in the online? Marina?
I don't have anyone online.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Yes.
Carried. Thank you.
Perfect.
Can we schedule the next special council meeting to adopt?
Sorry.
Schedule the next special council meeting to adopt.
Mr. Blackwell suggested next week, next Tuesday.
My recommendation is, this is